It's being called a national election, a couple dozen House races that are expected to decide which party controls Congress. And one of the fiercest battles is taking place on the Orange County coast, where longtime incumbent Dana Rohrabacher is being challenged by political newcomer Harley Rouda. Millions are being spent on ads to define and attack the candidates. But right now, they'll hash it out face to face. Rohrabacher and Rouda debate. That's next on Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by...
Each new community 5 Point brings to life represents a promise delivered. Great neighborhoods are more than just places to live, they are places to connect. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming.
Chapman University is a proud sponsor of Inside OC and community programming. Hi, I'm Rick Reiff. I'm hosting this debate between the candidates in California's 48th Congressional District. Now, the district takes in most of the OC coast from Seal Beach down to Laguna Beach and includes all or parts of 14 cities, including Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, Costa Mesa, and Laguna Niguel. It's been solidly Republican, but Hillary Clinton edged out Donald Trump in the district in 2016. And now, here are the candidates. Dana Rohrabacher is the Republican incumbent. He has represented the district for 30 years. Harley Rouda is the Democratic challenger. He's a real estate executive, and he's running for the first time. Now, both men survived a heated primary in which most of their fighting was with a candidate of their own party. They're still in fighting form. The debate format here was negotiated. We flipped a coin to determine seating and speaking order. All comments will be up to a minute long. And gentlemen, I've got this little timer here to keep you on pace. When you see that, you've got 10 seconds. Okay, so it's time for our opening statements. And Congressman Rohrabacher, you're first.
I'm Dana Rohrabacher, and I respectfully ask for your vote to return me to the United States Congress. I have a track record of limited government, lower taxes, border security, and of course support for basic programs like Medicare, like veterans benefits, Social Security. My opponent wants higher government, higher taxes, and he even wants to give Medicare to illegal immigrants. Well, today I am an independent Republican, and I have a track record to show it. I oppose, for example, the GOP tax plan because it wasn't good for Orange County. I've even taken on Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, on cannabis, an issue that should be decided at the state and local level, not the federal level. And of course, I have championed a plan to protect those with pre-existing conditions. Today, I'm acting against sober living homes in your neighborhood, high-density development, airport noise, and San Onofre's nuclear waste. I ride waves in California. I make waves in Washington.
Hi, I'm Harley Rouda, and I'm running for Congress in the 48th District. And let me tell you why I'm running. The election in 2016 made it very clear to me that our country is divided by partisan politics. Politicians who put party first and country second. I believe we need to reach across the aisle, fight for what we believe in, but ultimately put country and community first. We got to get rid of the corruption in Washington, the extremists. And I'm committed to work on behalf of all of the constituents of the 48th District. That's why I've been having town halls every single month. I've challenged Congressman Rohrabacher to meet me anytime, anywhere in a public library across the district to debate the issues, but he won't. But we're here debating the issues, and I'm looking forward to addressing them because even the comments he just said about my positions are false.
Okay. Mr. Rouda, you take the first question, and let's just get right to it. Donald Trump. A lot of folks say newcomers like you are running because Donald Trump is the president, and that this is really a referendum on him. So what do you think so far of the Trump presidency? And if you're in Congress, would you vote to impeach him?
Well, Rick, thanks for having me on, and we didn't get a chance to say that at the beginning, so I appreciate the opportunity. I'm running because our country deserves better from its elected officials, and this isn't about Trump. This is about what all of us need to do. We need to get rid of the extremism in politics. We need to fight for what we believe in, but again, reach across the aisle and serve our country and our community. I'm not going there to impeach Donald Trump. I'm going there to serve the constituents of the 48th District. And there's many differences between Representative Rohrabacher and myself. I believe global climate change is a real issue that has to be addressed. He doesn't. He supports offshore drilling. I don't. He has said that people shouldn't have to sell their homes to gays and lesbians. I think that's an atrocious comment that he made. He says homelessness is a lifestyle issue. I know a lot of people are down on their luck and need help getting back up. He supports the training and arming of kids in school. So clearly there's some real differences here in the values, and I believe my values represent the vast majority of voters in the district.
Okay. Congressman Rohrabacher, assess the Donald Trump presidency.
Well, I agree with many things that this president has done. Some people have a lot of trouble, and as I do, with some of the personality that he's demonstrated. But his policies and his principles are taking our country in the right direction. And I noticed that my opponent wasn't able to answer your question about whether or not he would impeach President Trump, which he has told other people that he will. What type of partisanship is that? That type of toxic partisanship, and spending our time trying to impeach and obstruct this president will grind the federal government to a halt. And we don't need that in Washington, D.C. I'm willing to work with Trump when he's right and oppose him when he's wrong. And I've got a record of that, as I say. We had a GOP tax bill that I ended up opposing. And that was because it wasn't good for Orange County. I have opposed President Trump's Attorney General on cannabis, because that's a decision should be made locally and at the state.
But you took an oath to the Constitution of the United States to uphold the law. So if he broke laws, are you saying you wouldn't take action?
Let me note you're breaking the rules just by trying to go across.
And you broke the rules by bringing notes.
Yeah.
Well, let me. Since I can direct the questions, let me direct that to you about your feeling on his law breaking, and also maybe more specifically, if it came, because there are many Democrats who say they will vote to impeach Trump. If that vote were there, how would you vote on that?
Well, I've been consistent all along on my position, and my position is that we need to make sure that Mueller has the time to do the breadth and depth of the investigation he deserves. He's already gotten over 30 convictions and indictments. So we know that his work is meaningful. Let's give him the time. After we see that report, then we can all make a decision what, if anything, needs to take place. Okay, and so I'll turn to you, Dana, and ask you, do you think there could be something in a Mueller report or some other disclosure that would justify impeachment?
What we have is another example of the obstructionism of people like my opponent in Washington, D.C., who have, again, been toxic in their partisanship. The bottom line is Mueller was appointed to try to find out if there was collusion between the Russians and the Trump and the Trump campaign. There has been nothing that has been discovered about that. Instead, he has used that to look into everything else beside that. So no, the president shouldn't be impeached. The fact that you leave that on the table at this point shows you that you're willing to close down the government on all these other things in order to make this partisan stand.
Let's move on. We just recently went through the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, raised a lot of issues about, showed the divide in this country, and it raised issues of the rights of sexual abuse victims, rights of the accused, the direction of the court, the political direction. You start this one, Congressman Rohrabacher. What's your thoughts on the whole Kavanaugh situation?
First of all, obviously, any woman that steps forward and has a complaint needs to be heard, and that was happened. The Republicans control both houses of Congress. Her complaints were heard. There was no collaborating evidence, and for the Democrats to continue to push to make sure that this guy never really gets to be a Supreme Court judge, drag it on forever, again, create an impasse for getting something done is unconscionable. And the fact is that once it was determined that there was no collaborating evidence, that's what it is. A man or a woman is guilty? No. It's innocent till proven guilty.
Okay. Mr. Rouda.
Unfortunately, it shows once again how partisan the politics are in our country. And we should never make light of allegations of sexual harassment and misconduct. And to have the President of the United States mock Dr. Ford was again a low point in his behavior. I would like to actually see the Senate go back to 60 members having to confirm the nominations to the court. I believe that would get rid of some of this bipartisan bickering that we see, the partisan bickering that we see, and get back to what our country really wants to see.
Okay, I want to get into specific issues now, and so I thought I'd start, Mr. Rouda, with you and let you choose. What do you think the most important issue is in this race?
You know, I get asked that all the time, and the issue obviously depends in part as to who you're talking to, but certainly making sure that we have health care available to all, to make sure that we have, that we protect Medicare, protect Social Security, protect our environment, create good middle class jobs. All of these are important issues. Locally, we have the sober home issue that has to be addressed, the flights out of John Wayne Airport, the homelessness issue. All of these are important issues as well. But the big overriding issue that keeps coming to the top now is, again, it's this partisan bickering, the corruption that we have in D.C., that our politicians are unwilling to put country and community first. And it's a failure. And that's why we need to get new people in office. Not just me in this race, but locally, statewide, federally, we need to get new blood in place so that we get rid of this partisan bickering and move country and community forward.
Congressman Rohrabacher, same question to you. Right. What's the biggest issue?
Well, of course, partisan bickering is personified by people who want to impeach the president or drag out everything to make sure our government doesn't work. What's the most important issue, I think, to me, but to also to the people of California and the people of this country, is to try to get control of our borders, where we have had 30 million illegals crossing into our country over the last 20 and 30 years. We have millions of people who are here illegally. If we ignore that, number one, it's draining the money from all these programs that we're talking about. When you talk about giving Medicare to illegal immigrants, you're going to collapse that system. We already have.
And I haven't said that.
Well, can you not interrupt me so I can have my say? You're welcome to have your say as well. When you have somebody who's willing to give Medicare to illegal immigrants, which we have a video of this gentleman making that promise, but it also drains money away from education, from health care, from veterans benefits. All the things that are important services to our people are being undermined by not dealing with illegal immigration.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about immigration, because
actually, I think let's do that. But do you want to go in the order? Let Congressman Rohrabacher go first on that, and then you go.
Go ahead, please.
You go next. All right. So let's talk more about immigration, and particularly what should be done about the Dreamers, and and that sort of thing, and a path to citizenship. How do you feel about that?
What we've got are people in this country who are here illegally, and there are millions of them, and they are undermining our ability to provide the services to our veterans, to our seniors, to our people who go to school, the health care our community needs. They are draining that money. We cannot afford to attract more people here by making even more promises if they come here. Now, the other party, I have no idea what is trying to motivate them to say that they're trying to restrict the ability of local police to work with federal agencies to deal with illegal alien criminals even. No, whose side are we on? That's the basic question when it comes to immigration. And when it comes to the Dreamers, anybody who's here illegally, if we legalize their status, there's going to be millions more who come here. We care about these young people, but we care more about our own families And because if we legalize their status, people all over the world are going to say, send our kids there right away.
Okay,
they are going to get all the benefits of American citizens.
Because I think the question is the Dreamers and the other non-citizens who are here should any or should large numbers of them be deported?
We're not talking about non-citizens. We're talking about people who've come here illegally. There are a lot of people who are non-citizens who have come here legally. Listen, I am not for decreasing the number of legal immigrants, but illegal immigrants coming here and giving them citizenship, legalizing their status, providing them with health care or education means millions and millions more will come and our system will break down. It's in the process of breaking down now. Our neighborhoods aren't safe, our schools are inundated, and we are punishing our own people by providing limited resources to people who are here illegally.
Okay, Harley, I'll give you a couple minutes now to respond, and I'd like to know your views on immigration, illegal immigration, sanctuary cities.
Let me be very clear. Representative Rohrabacher wants to deport everyone who is here undocumented, and he wants to charge them, actually submitted a bill to Congress to charge them $1 million each to come back to build the wall. Where am I on immigration? I support Senate Bill 744 that was passed in 2013 by 2-to-1 support in the Senate, bipartisan support, including Republican senators from the southern border states, including the late, great John McCain. That legislation provided $46 billion for port and border security. It also provided a pathway to citizenship for Dreamers, and it also provided for redoing visa programs so those who would come to the U.S. to create new businesses and jobs could come here and do just that. That legislation could have passed in the House of Representatives, but Representative Rohrabacher and Speaker Boehner never led it to the floor to be passed, and it would have passed because, again, it had majority support. And that's what's wrong with Washington, where the corruption and the self-serving interest of trying to keep your job versus putting your country forward in the right way through bipartisan, strong legislation is why we need new leadership.
Okay. This question goes to you, Mr. Rouda, on the economy. As you know, unemployment historically low, stock market until the last few days doing really well, but concerns about looming trade wars and about income inequality. What do you think the state of the economy is, and how much credit or discredit do you give to the president?
Well, there's certainly, the stock market was doing well until a few days ago, and that's always going to be a bit up and down. But we need to recognize that we do have increasing income inequality in the United States. We need to rebuild our middle class. And that's always been the foundation of our country, was a strong middle class that helps all businesses grow. And that means creating new industries and new job opportunities. That's why I'm a strong supporter of building clean tech, clean energy industries right here in Southern California. That's also why I believe we have to do a better job addressing infrastructure needs. You know, we've had infrastructure week every week for 50 weeks in the White House, yet nothing's getting done. And this is a bipartisan issue where we have support on both sides of the aisle to address our crumbling bridges and crumbling infrastructure. So let's work towards those types of things to create those good paying jobs.
Okay. Congressman Rohrabacher, what kind of how's the economy doing, and what do you think about these issues of income inequality and trade wars?
Well, finally, we have a president that's actually fighting for us in terms of our trade policies with other countries. And yeah, the Chinese were always in a trade war with us, and so we weren't fighting. The president's gone down and said we've got to restructure NAFTA to make sure that our trade relations with Mexico and Canada are better. Those are good things that have happened, as well as, let me just note, this president has reached out to make sure that the iron fist of government doesn't get in the way of our entrepreneurs and our technologists. I am a senior member of the Science Committee, and I have been deeply involved with trying to restructure, for example, America's aerospace industry. And I am the one who actually wrote the Commercial Space Act, which brought in commercial space investment and created thousands and thousands of jobs here in Orange County and in Southern California. So yeah, we need to make sure we're technologically superior. I've been the champion of the patent system in the United States. So with that said, yeah, we're going to prosper, we're going to outdo, and we're going to outthink any type of competitor overseas.
Okay. Let's turn. I wanted to talk about foreign affairs. There's a lot of things we could touch on, but obviously the one that comes up, I think, the most when it comes to you, Congressman Rohrabacher, is Russia. And you know, sometimes it's a standing joke among some folks that you're, you know, Putin's buddy, Putin's lapdog, whatever. You know. Explain your relationship with Vladimir Putin and your views on Russia.
Okay, well, first of all, I was Ronald Reagan's speechwriter for 7 years and a special assistant to the president. My track record on dealing with the Soviet Union and my role that I played, I'm the guy who actually smuggled the tear down the wall speech to the president. So I have impeccable credentials there. And I have spent most of my time, of course, dealing with technology issues. But for the last 6 years, I have been the chairman in the House of Representatives of the committee with jurisdiction to oversee our relations with Russia. All of this nonsense, this fake news, and an advertisement that's been put out trying to think there's something sinister about that is nothing but fake. The bottom line is, I think that yes, we should cooperate with Russia now that it's no longer our major threat, meaning the primary threat. We don't meet our standards, but right now we have to deal with radical Islam and China and Russia. We should cooperate where we can with Russia rather than being unrelentingly hostile.
Mr. Rouda, and I guess to the point that Russia is not our biggest threat, I think I've heard you quoted as saying you think Russia is the biggest threat. But anyway, how do you view the congressman's stance on Russia, and what's your own?
Well, Representative Rohrabacher has said that 17 U.S. intelligence agencies who are staffed by working men and women from diverse backgrounds, including our U.S. military. He says they're all wrong, that the Russians had nothing to do with meddling in our elections. And how does he know that? Because he met with Julian Assange, the WikiLeaks founder, and who was holed up in an Ecuadorian embassy in London. That's his basis for saying that U.S. intelligence agencies are wrong. I side with the U.S. intelligence agencies. And regardless of where he is on his activity with Russia, there are those that think that the taking of checks from Paul Manafort, convicted felon Paul Manafort, meeting with Russian operatives, meeting with Russian spies is not good for our country. But the one thing I do know, it's not doing a darn thing to create jobs here, help our schools, our families, and our communities and our kids. Okay,
but to follow up, what should our relationship be with Russia?
We should be very concerned about Russia. It is a dictator who has taken over Crimea, has invaded Ukraine, has killed journalists on the foreign soil in England. And to sit there and turn a blind eye to that is ridiculous.
Okay. We are now up on our time for the closing statements. And I believe, Mr. Rouda, you go first with your closing statement.
Thank you, Rick. Representative Rohrabacher has been in Congress for 30 years. He has passed 3 pieces of legislation in 30 years, most recently 14 years ago. I come from a business background. I've created tens of thousands of jobs in my career. I know what it's like to pay a paycheck, to create jobs, to sign personal guarantees and be on the hook for a business, to be an entrepreneur, to run a business. And we need more people in Congress who are prepared to do that, to build jobs, build the economy, and understand what it's like for working families across our country and here in the district. And I hope that you will vote for me. Please check out our 2 websites. See if my values match up with your values. And if they do, vote for me. And more than anything, forget whether there's a D or an R next to either of our names. See if the values represent your values and vote for the person who has the character that you deserve in Congress.
Okay. Hi, I grew up in Southern California, and my wife and I have raised our triplets here in Huntington Beach and in Costa Mesa, and I personally identify with the hardworking people here in Orange County. And you know who I am. And sadly, my opponent, you don't know who he is. He condemns oil companies, for example, like he just mentioned about offshore oil drilling and global warming, yet he himself has been heavily invested in the production of crude oil, personally benefiting. He says he wants to protect health care, but we know that when a woman was suffering cancer, he canceled her insurance because it was too high. He says Washington is dysfunctional, yet you hear him talking about impeaching the president. Yeah, if you can't rule that out right now and understand that this fake news is trying to create this situation, he's willing to bring us to a standstill in Washington. Well,
Okay.
I think you can trust me because you know who I am, and I am someone who is on your side.
Okay, given that, do you want to just a quick 10 seconds to rebut anything that was just said?
Well, it's so full of falsehoods, where do you start? And that's just a typical politician in Washington, D.C. who's been there for 30 years.
Okay, well, gentlemen, thank you. It was certainly a lively debate. I do appreciate the two of you coming here to, how about that? Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay. That's what America's all about, buddy.
And our time's up. And thanks again to the candidates, Dana Rohrabacher and Harley Rouda. You can watch this show and past shows at pbssocal.org or rickreiff.com. You can also catch our shows and our post-show open mic chatter on YouTube. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Thanks for watching Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by
Each new community 5 Point brings to life represents a promise delivered. Great neighborhoods are more than just places to live, they are places to connect. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming.
All your life, people talk about what's best for you. But to most people, it's just that. Talk. Unless you're with Memorial Care, a healthcare system devoted to one important thing: what's best for you.